Sebastian for the Metal Gods Meltdown, and I'm joined by
Marko Palmén, guitarist and founder and original member of Evocation.
Awesome to be chatting to you tonight. I'd like to congratulate you on your new album. How pleased are you with the finished product?
Thank you very much. I couldn't be more pleased. I mean, we were at the brink of pulling the plug on the band, burying the band for good, but then we decided to go on, and now we're just here with this, as I think, amazing album. So I couldn't be more pleased. I'm just really thrilled about it.
Now this album is upon us. How glad are you of the continued Evocation, and do you think there's going to be a possibility of another album, but sooner than 4 years' time?
Yeah, as you said, we had some major lineup changes. We lost two of our founding and original members, Janne and Vesa, who's been in the band since 1991, and that was a really tough, hard blow for us. And for a moment, I actually considered burying the band for good, but I told the other boys that I needed a couple of weeks to think it through, and during those weeks I came to the conclusion that I'm still not through with Evocation. There's still stuff to achieve, and it felt as if we still had the strongest material within us to release in the future. And I talked to Thomas and Gustav, and they felt exactly the same, so that's when we decided to continue, and now I couldn't be more happy with the end result. I mean, we spent 2 years working on the album, on the tracks, just to make the perfect album, and to be quite honest, I think this is the strongest and most versatile Evocation album up to date. And when I look at the future, well, who knows? I mean, we only do this as long as it feels fun and gives us something back. And in about 2 years, who knows how we'll feel or 4 years. Maybe we'll be totally fed up with the Vocation and pull the plug for good. Nobody knows. But at the moment, this is really the most exciting thing we're doing, and we just try to go with the flow and enjoy the moment. So, and about the future, we don't know what will happen in the future.
So what's the response been like to the few tracks you have already released from the fans and media?
I think they've been overall positive. They say that it's a more step towards our death metal roots, but there's still something new and exciting about the album, and I think that's due to us recruiting Simon Exner as new guitarist for the band. Simon he's 13 years younger than I am, and he's a more sort of new school death metal guy, and I'm a more old school death metal guy, and somehow, we merged those two worlds, the new school technical brutal death metal and the old school more sort of pounding, slow, more brutal death metal. And it merged very well together, I think. It's a really cool album, I think. It's something which we haven't ever tried before, and friends of us say that the new Evocation album, it still sounds like Evocation, but there's still something new in the album compared to previous efforts, and yeah, that feels great, I think.
How does the songwriting process work within the band? Is it all down to Thomas, or do you all get involved with it?
Well, the music was created by me and Simon. Simon, the new guitarist there, he's the lead guitarist, and he actually sort of shouldered Vesa's role in the band. Vesa was the main songwriter in Evocation previous to when Simon joined the band, and actually Simon took on the responsibility as being the sort of main songwriter for this album, and I contributed as much as possible, and I was also his sort of companion during the creating process of all the tracks and so on. So the music was anyway created by us, and somehow it was a very smooth and easy process as well. because somewhere along the way, me and Simon shared the same visions and thoughts about what we wanted to achieve with this album. We wanted to go a step back towards the roots of Evocation, and but still add some new elements into the songwriting. And yeah, it took 2 years, but it was never a tough or rough ride. It was quite pleasant all the time, and I must say that this album was probably the most easy and smooth album I've ever been along writing.
Obviously, all of the tracks are going to be a favourite track to you, but if you had to pick out one for today, which track would that be and why?
I think the Shadow Archetype, the title track, might be one of my real favourites, and I think it's because that one sort of it starts to grow on you when you listen to it more than, say 3-4 times, and it becomes the sort of strongest track on the album. After that, it's not an instant hit, that you feel is the best track on the album with the first listening, but after 3, 4, 5 times or something like that, it starts to grow on you, and that's why I like it a lot.
If I'd never listened to Evocation, which 2 tracks would you play me from the new album?
Well, perhaps Condemned to the Grave, the first real track on the album, because that's the instant hit on the album, I think, which really gets stuck on you on the first listening. It's might be the most catchy track that we have ever done. And let's see, the second one, maybe The Coroner. That one's a classic Gothenburg sounding death metal track with fast 2 beats and a double bass drum chorus, and I like that one as well very much.
cover's always excellent, but I'd love the new album cover. That would make an interesting tattoo, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. Our cover artist, Xai, whom we have worked with now since 2010, he really managed to, exceed himself or do something really exciting this time. All the previous albums covers that he has done have been really great, but this one really tops it off. I think it's really amazing, and I think one of the reasons for that is the theme behind the album title, The Shadow Archetype, is from the Swiss psychologist called Gustav Jung and his archetype theory. And when I told that to Xai, our artist, he said that, wow, that's a real nice coincidence, because when I studied at Krakow University in Poland, he did a paper about that subject, the shadow archetype and the archetype theories. And so he was the perfect guy. He knew exactly what we were talking about and thinking about. So he really caught the essence of that theory in that cover.
Do you think you'll get yourself a tattoo of the cover?
We'll see, maybe. It would definitely be a really great tattoo motif. Absolutely, I agree.
What are your plans, tour and festival-wise, for the year?
For the first, we'll do a release party show here in our hometown, which will be, it's preliminary scheduled for 8th of April. And after that, we actually don't have any festivals or tours booked or planned, but we're trying to get on a tour for the autumn, a support tour for some bigger band or something like that. But it's for us. We're not living off the music. Mm-hmm. We have daytime jobs, so for us it's a bit more difficult to get on a tour, because there are so many things that needs to work out with the daytime jobs, families, and so on. And we also need to be a bit more, picky about the bands that we choose to tour with. Because, it wouldn't make sense for Evocation to go on a tour with a band like Hammerfall or Sabaton, because the audience is so different compared to the extreme metal audience. And so that sort of narrows it down quite a bit with the bands that you can go out on tour with. So that's the only downside with not being a band that lives off the music. But otherwise, I would say that not living off the music is a quite big advantage in many ways.
You say it's been Evocation's biggest achievement to date?
Biggest achievement? Wow. Well, maybe just the fact that we are still around, because when we kicked off again back in 2005, after having been buried in the ground for 12 years after the early 90s, we just said that, okay, we're just gonna start to rehearse the old tracks and see if it's still fun and so on. And after a couple of months, at first it sounded like fucking shit when we were in the rehearsal studio and rehearsed. But after a couple of months, it started to sound quite decent. And then Vesa came up with the idea, maybe we should start doing some new tracks. This is quite fun. And we started to do a couple of new tracks. And after a while, we had a complete album. And and now we're on the 5th full-length album for Evocation, so I would say that just the fact that we're still around is the biggest achievement.
And so how pleased are you to be signed to Metal Blade for the second time around, and what advantages do you think that will bring to the band?
We have only previously we been we had a licensing deal together with Metal Blade. We were on Cyclone Empire Records, and Metal Blade licensed the albums to the US and North America, but Metal Blade is a great label. That's I would say it was our number one choice of a record label for Evocation, because they're still they're the only really big independent metal label around. Mm-hmm. And they just have an amazing roster with bands. I just love. There are so many bands on the roster that I like. and also another great thing is that our press contact here in an A&R guy here in Europe, Andreas Reisnauer, he's actually a friend of the band since the very, very beginning of Evocation. When we released our first demo, The Ancient Gate, back in 1992, Andreas Reisnauer had his own record label, Concrete Records, and he actually distributed our first demo in Germany back in the days, and yeah, we've been friends ever since. So for us, it feels really great to work with friends, and it sort of feels like, you know, closing the circle for the band. There won't ever be any other record label for Evocation than Metal Gods Records in the future. That's the label that we will end with.
Scandinavia has always produced amazing black metal bands. Why do you think this is?
Wow, yeah, that's a tough question, but perhaps that it's. I mean, Scandinavia is quite especially in the winter time. It's quite somber. It's quite dark. It's very cold. Quite depressive up here in Scandinavia during winter time, and I think maybe that's the sort of inspiration for black metal and why the black metal scene has become so big up here in Scandinavia. Yeah, that's what I would guess, at least, would be the reason for it.
Who, in your opinion, has had the greatest influence in the whole heavy metal scene, and why?
Wow, that's a tough one. Okay, I would just go from myself. The band that has had the most serious impact on me, at least, must be Entombed. When I first heard the Left Hand Path album back in '89, I was just fucking blown away. It was a sort of enlightenment for me. I mean, during all my youth years, I was always searching for something more and more extreme, you know, going from first bands like Kiss and Iron Maiden, and then it became Metallica, Creator, and then when I heard Entombed's Left Hand Path album, it was just as if I had found home, you know. I didn't have to search anymore for what I was searching for, something more extreme. I just realized this is the shit. So Entombed's Left Hand Path is for me the most groundbreaking thing in the metal scene for me.
What would you like Evocation to be remembered for in 100 years' time?
Well, I would want to be remembered as a band that you know gave everything, gave their and had death metal and Evocation as their passion, and I hope that can be heard on our albums, and I hope that people will say that, wow, this music, there is real passion in this music. That's all I hope for. I'm not hoping for, you know, big sales numbers or anything like that. It's the thing that for me would be to get a sort of acknowledgement that we are making great music that matters to people. That's the only thing I hope for.
And can you tell us why we should buy the Shadow Archetype?
You know, we Swedes are not so good about bragging. We're quite, shy about that. But because, I mean, we just spent 3 years with blood, sweat, and tears putting our souls into this album, and I think people can hear it on the album, and I think that's the reason why people should buy it, because it fucking matters. There's just passion for death metal in the album.
Live gig or festival?
Live.
Vinyl or digital?
Vinyl.
IKEA or the pub?
Pub.
Swedish meatballs or English breakfast?
Swedish meatballs.
Demons or God?
Demons.
Do you have any final words for your fans and our listeners?
Well, thanks for the support, and if Evocation comes around your nearby area, feel free to check us out and have a great time with us and share some beers. This is Marko from Evocation, and you're listening to Metal Gods Meltdown.